and welcome to today's webinar on Sustainable Mobility Research, Knowledge Management and Dissemination, Advancing the Transition to a Low Carbon Transportation Future. And I'm Rita Sharma, Associate Fellow, TERI. And this webinar is organized by TERI and GIZ in cooperation with Niti Aayog India as part of the NDCT Transport Initiative for Asia project being implemented in India by GIZ and other partner organizations. The webinar targets to bring together experts from academia, industry, and government to discuss the latest advancement in sustainable mobility research, effective strategies and knowledge management and innovative approaches to disseminations. And for this webinar, we have a distinguished panel of speakers. So without much ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, Dr. P.K. Bhattacharya, sir, Associate Director and Senior Fellow, TERI, to please deliver the welcome address of this webinar. Over to you, Dr. P.K. Bhattacharya, sir.
Good afternoon, all distinguished speakers, participants, and my fellow colleagues who have made this organizing this webinar possible. So I welcome you all in this today's seminar or webinar on sustainable mobility research, knowledge management, dissemination, advancing the transition to a low carbon transportation future. Now, just to give you a brief outline why we are organizing this webinar and what is the perspective, just in line what Rita has just mentioned. According to Niti Aayog, cities in India contribute to nearly 82% of the GDP, but are also responsible for 78% of overall carbon dioxide emissions. And nearly 25% of these emissions are coming from transport sector alone. Now, government has a plan to have a zero carbon emission India by 2070, for which carbon emission reduction in transport sector is therefore very, very essential, that we all know. Now, ironically, road sector, that is in the passenger and the freight, both dominate the transport emission in India, and which is contributing nearly 92% of the total emissions. And government has a projection that they want to, reduce this emission.
Okay, you are not audible, yeah.
I'm not audible?
No, sir, you are audible, sir.
So
we can hear you.
Yes,
very clearly,
yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So basically, government has projected that this carbon emission should be reduced by at least 45% by 2030. Now, that is where our electric mobility can play a very crucial role. Now, what we have seen in the recent years, that emission reduction perspective, or rather promotion of electric mobility ecosystem, government has had several policy initiatives, regulatory measures, different promoting the research and industry encouragement. Everything is happening. Just to tell you some of them, like FAME policies, which is actually focusing on the demand creation, technology, pilot projects, and it has already been encouraging the public charging of 2-3-wheelers, commercial fleets, and all this. Reduce the GST on electric vehicle and chargers, prohibiting sales of 2-3-wheelers, ICE engine-based wheelers, then induction of EV policies in different states, encouraging government agencies to set up different, and the industries to set up different OEMs and the CPOs across India, bringing battery swapping policies and taking different measures towards, battery waste management are some of those things. Now, all these actually happening in a larger, inclusive manner, where market policy as well as research is playing a, crucial role, where different dialogues are going on. Now, promoting of e-mobility concept within government agencies, that is where Niti Aayog is spearheading. Beneficiary industries, they facilitate execution of plans and creating a commercial and congenial atmosphere is also one of the important point. Now, as this sector is emerging, we have noticed that there are knowledge resources scattered in different places, and the digital repository is therefore planned. So I am happy to share with you that Terry, with support from GIZ, under the purview of NDCTIA project, has developed this digital repository, that digital library on green mobility, to bridge the gap between these scattered knowledge resources and the stakeholders. In the due course of time, we will see that how DLGM has impacted on the stakeholders in different perspectives. Now, I hope this webinar will address how e-mobility knowledge is helping researchers and policymakers, business houses, and different other stakeholders, and can address some issues like what more to be done. So we have a galaxy of good quality of speakers today. So from different organizations to share their experience and views. So we are waiting to listen to them. Once again, I thank you all for showing your interest to understand this interesting topic. Thank you all.
So thank you, Dr. P. Bhattacharya, sir, for this warm welcome address and telling us about the importance of knowledge management in the EV sectors. So now I invite our next speaker, Ms. Bhagyashri, Energy Advisor, NDC-TIA initiative from GIZ India, to please talk about NDC-TIA project. Over to you, Bhagyashri.
Thank you, Rita. Rita, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So to begin with, I want to extend a heartfelt welcome to all the participants who have joined us for today's webinar on significance of knowledge management in driving the shift to low carbon transportation. So I'm Bhagyashri, working in the capacity of an energy advisor for the NDCTIA project at GIZ India. So speaking a brief about the project, Nationally Determined Contribution Transport Initiative for Asia is a joint project of 7 organizations, and it has an engagement in China, India, and Vietnam. The project is a part of International Climate Initiative, working under the leadership of Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action in close cooperation with its founder, the Federal Ministry of Environment and Federal Foreign Office. The project aims to promote a comprehensive approach on decarbonizing transport that is a coherent strategy to effective policies that are coordinated among various stakeholders, civil societies, and the private sector. The resources under this project has been available in a website that we have developed, and I'll be providing it in the link in the chat. And please feel free to have a look into the resources. In India, when I speak specifically on India, the project aims to achieve this aim with an establishment of a stakeholder platform, and the platform is called as the Forum for Decarbonizing Transport. And the forum has enabled diverse stakeholders to initiate and engage in dialogues to develop solutions towards decarbonizing India transport. The forum has brought together around 1,800 stakeholders across 20 events since its inception in 2021. We are also looking into aspects of grid integration of charging infrastructure of EVs through various studies of RE-based EV charging and smart charging under the project. The activities under NDCTI India component is carried out in close collaboration with our political partner, it's Niti Aayog under the Government of India. So when I generally speak on the e-mobility, like the mobility ecosystem, it's undergoing a profound transformation, and the imperative to sustainable practices has been more apparent nowadays. So electric mobility, it serves as a guiding light to the quest for a cleaner and more sustainable future. So here I would like to highlight one of our initiative under the India component, which PKB sir just spoke about. So an online library that is dedicated to the vast and evolving landscape of green mobility, which would be presented in detail by Deepa in the next session. So once again, I extend my sincere gratitude to all participants for joining, and I express my best wishes for success of the event. Thank you, Rita.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bhagyashree ji, for telling us about this NDCTID projects. And now I invite our next keynote speaker, Dr. Zakir Hussain Rathar, Assistant Professor, Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, to please deliver his talk on advancing sustainable mobility research through knowledge dissemination and networking. So over to you, Zakir sir. So Ritu, Zakir sir has joined. If you can make him panelist.
He's already a panelist. He's joined as a
Okay,
panelist.
okay. So Dr. Zakir, are you there in the meeting?
So he's there if you go.
Yeah.
I think he's there in the meeting, but he has some issues with the connection because we can't see his icons of mobile and all video.
Okay.
Rita, it's better if you call him. Maybe
Yeah,
he's facing some issues.
I just called him because he was facing some problems, so he has joined from the browser.
Okay, that's why maybe he has, or he can join as a attendee. We can upgrade him to the panelist then.
Okay, let me talk to him.
So, Rita, my suggestion to you that let us, go to the next speaker, Deepa, let her present this. And meanwhile, you resolve the issue of Zaki.
Okay, thank you, Dr. P.K. Bhattacharya sir, for these suggestions. So meanwhile, Dr. Zakir is resolving the technical issues. So we will invite our next speaker, Miss Ann Deepa. She is fellow at TERI, and she will talk about the digital library on green mobility, DLGM, and knowledge management for sustainable mobility. So over to you, Deepa, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. We will now have a presentation. I'm just sharing my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Deepa.
Okay. So the role of knowledge management platforms has been constantly evolving in recent times and has a significant impact on research collaborations globally. The role of knowledge management cannot be overemphasized. The platforms, digital platforms, knowledge platforms are evolving rapidly. And the basic aim of knowledge management platforms are to consolidate information that is structured. Promotion of research, academic, business, policy, and regulatory interventions, providing user-centric services to enhance corporate processes, and empowering communities at large through knowledge sharing, dissemination, and capacity building. Just to give you a brief example of how the power of research output works, this was a study which was done by using publications which were published from 2000 to 2021 using Web of Science, the scientists from Brazil, which was published in a journal, Energies, in 2022. The study found out that there has been an increase in research outputs over the years. This shows the increasing trend of EV research. Basically the research, the quality of research outputs and the trends that shows the increase of publications, and also the semantic network of country-wise production that shows that China is leading in terms of bringing out the research outputs, followed by US and then India. So there was some technical glitch, I think. So this presentation is basically in two parts. We will go through the digital library on green mobility, which was just explained by Ms. Bhagyashree as well as Dr. P.K. Bhattacharya. And then we will go on to look at some other web-based platforms. The rationale for developing the digital library on green mobility was for promotion of sustainable mobility, aligning with the Government of India's agenda of reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the transport sector, again consolidating the scattered information into a single structured window, and providing knowledge support for policy formulation and facilitating knowledge sharing for collective content co-creation. DSGM is a collaborative effort of GIZ India and TEDI as part of the regional program called the NTC-TIA, of which Niti Aayog is a crucial element. The NTC-TIA is an initiative of 7 organizations and basically aims for decarbonizing transport in India, China, and Vietnam. The key features of the portal includes facilitating knowledge access across the various facets of green mobility, showcasing research, technical standards, technology, policies, regulations, commercial aspects on various aspects of electric vehicles and sustainable mobility. And the portal focuses on various dimensions of EV and low carbon transport. Now, if you look at the website, there are various knowledge resources that are available for the users in a structured manner. We have the Knowledge Hub, we have the EV ecosystem, the events details, media updates, and a glossary of terms on sustainable mobility. So a registered user has to log in for accessing, for downloading the full text documents which are available in this repository. But the user needs to be registered. So the user has to log in to get access to the full text documents. Up till abstract level, anyone can access. There's no need for registration. But a registered user has an added benefit that they can share their contents also through the portal. So for all users, the contents are searchable up to the metadata level. And the search results also show similar contents which are available on the website. I'll just show you an example also. Registered users can download full texts as well as share their contents. The digital library maintains the user's data privacy. We are only providing full text or full text documents for which we get the rights from the publisher. The total number of records which are available in different category of knowledge resources in the portal is 3,000 plus. So when we go to Knowledge Hub, we have various types of knowledge resources like the books, case studies, journals, opinions, policies, reports, research papers, standards, technologies, theses and dissertations, and training materials. And the search is, there is a global search which can be done from the homepage, as well as there are several filters through which a person can search. Sorting filters, year-wise filter, keyword-wise, resource type. So when we search through any of these filters or a global search, we get a research output, and which also conveys the users of related documents that are available on the website. A registered user has the benefit of downloading the full text of documents which are available in the website. The Knowledge Hub also provides access to details on technology. One important aspect of developing this platform is all the knowledge is curated by the knowledge management professionals in TERI, but these are reviewed by our subject experts in TERI, and they play a crucial part in reviewing each content, the taxonomy structure, which is very vital for for a user-centric friendly portal. In terms of the website traffic, the portal has seen a gradual growth of users and views over the years since it was launched, and we have over 1,000 registered users. The total number of users is 19,000 plus, approximately 20,000, and the views is more than 1 lakh views. We are also promoting this DLGM website through social media, and we have the maximum users are in the LinkedIn platform, followed by Facebook, and then Twitter. To understand the user feedback and their behavior, we had conducted a survey of DLGM users 2 years back. And what the results that we got is about 53% of the users belong to the researcher and academician sectors. Maximum users use the portal for upgrading their knowledge in clean mobility domain, and Knowledge Hub section was the most used section of the portal. And users from different backgrounds are using it, be it the government officials, knowledge professionals, librarians, journalists, editors, consultants, and most of the users are using it for their knowledge enhancement, followed by research and academic purpose. So in terms of rating, most of the users found DLGM portal easy to access, and also the users have reported that portals cover the important DL features and resources that they would like to see in terms of their use. Now, when we come to other significant platforms in e-mobility, one very significant platform is the e-Amrit portal, which is operated by the Niti Aayog. And the key features of this portal includes it gives details on various elements of electric vehicles, like the financial options, insurance options, incentives, the business model, manufacturers, charging stations, and it has very important resources in terms of policy, standards, and reports. Changing Transport is one other very useful web platform, which is by the GSA Germany with support from the International Climate Initiative of the BMU. Key features include the tracker of climate strategies for transport, as well as the emission calculator and the details aviation calculator. EV Ready India dashboard was a recently launched web platform, which is by the OMI Foundation, and it includes near real-time EV adoption, forecast data, associated battery demand, charging density, the market growth trends, and state distribution of EV charging stations. FAME India Phase 2 is a very important website by the Ministry of Heavy Industries, Government of India, and it includes e-mobility data dashboard as well as the OEMs data, dealers, testing agencies. The Automotive Research Association of India has two platforms on e-mobility. One is the DHI Center of Excellence for E-Mobility, which provides access to various policies, standards, skill development details, and various other resources. And the Technoverse platform supports technology innovation, technology transfer, expert connect, and resource sharing. The Net Interactive Documents is a digital library which was developed by the Graz University of Technology, Australia, and it also includes some of the documents which were uploaded in the digital icon e-mobility, and it has got some special features which are part of the digital library development, where users can add information to a page of a document, and they can start a discussion based on these based on the chapters of the documents. So this is the session on basically DLGM and other web platforms, which we hope our participants would be useful for the participants for their research and knowledge purpose. Thank you. Over to you, Deepa.
Yeah, thank you, Deepa Madam, for such a detailed explanation on DLGM portal. And not only telling about the DLGM, but also about the other websites which our participants can go through, and they can, I'm sure they will be benefited by using these portals. So before moving to the next presentation, I would like to mention that all the participants can post their queries, or if they have any questions, in the chat box, and at the end of this webinar or after all the presentation and after the panel discussion, we will take some selected questions which our panelists or and other speakers will answer. So now move to the next talk by Dr. Zakir Hussain Rathar. He is assistant professor in Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. And sir, I request you to please deliver your presentation. Over to you, Zakir, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Sorry for the trouble that I had initially in connecting to this webinar link. So I'm sharing the slides. Please let me know if you can see the presentation in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please put this in
Let me
the
know.
board, sir. Yes.
Okay. So a very good afternoon to all the participants. The presentation that I am going here to give here, take you through is basically some of the findings that we have done around this electric vehicle charging infrastructure and its integration in India. One disclaimer I would like to state before I go into the presentation is that I have given that this is an event under NDCTIA project. Most of this discussions, most of the contents that I am going to mention in this presentation have been carried out under some of the studies that have been part of the NDCTIA funded by GIG. Through different studies that IIT Bombay was leading here from the consortium side. So I think probably this is known all to us why we are doing electrification of the transportation sector. The main driving factor which is there for has been there for the renewables as well is actually the same climate issues. Transportation is forming one of the major contributors of the carbon emission across the world, including India. So therefore, to achieve net zero targets across the world by different countries, it is important that we actually address the carbon emissions from all the different sectors of the energy vector, and this transportation being one of those critical vectors of the energy, which will play an important role in achieving carbon net zero emission targets. So therefore, one of the major critical components of this entire EV ecosystem is charging infrastructure, which actually integrates electric vehicles on the demand side with the grid, and it is one of the critical components of this entire ecosystem. There has been a survey that was done a few years ago, I think somewhere 8 to 10 years back in California, where the EV users, which had switched back to the conventional ICE vehicles, were actually surveyed, and 75% of them mentioned that lack of adequate charging infrastructure has been the primary reason for them to switch back to the conventional vehicles. So that kind of gives an indication of how critical EV charging infrastructure, adequate EV charging infrastructure is for adoption of these electric vehicles. These are some of the statistics of India, not the latest ones, but the recent ones. So in summary, that we are at the early stage of this EV adoption in India. So we have a lot of challenges, but at the same time, a lot of opportunities in that lying out with this electric vehicle integration into the system. So looking at why it is challenging to actually cater to these electricity needs of the charging of electric vehicles. This slide kind of summarizes different technical impacts, technical issues that this electric vehicle charging infrastructure actually brings into the grid side. You can see here voltage issues. We have done several other studies and analysis where actual distribution systems are experiencing voltage issues because of this charging load, electric vehicle charging load. To put it in a simple terms, if we look at the slowest possible charger for four-wheeler passenger car, which is 3.3 kilowatt, it is actually going to be almost, going to increase double the load of a household. So that is the scale at the lowest slow charger level that we are actually talking about. Now, having double, if we go for a little higher charger capacity, then 6 kilowatt home charging, 11 kilowatt in some countries home charging, that's going to actually triple or more than triple the load of the household. So we're talking of, three times, two times household load, and then on top of that public charging load that's going to actually come onto this distribution system, which has not been actually designed to cater this new and unique load that is being now getting added to the system. So it brings into several issues from the grid management perspective: increase in peak load. Usual behavior of the EV user is that coming back in the evening, they would try to put up their electric vehicle for charging, and that's unfortunately coinciding with the conventional peak load that we generally experience in the evening hours in any city in India and across the world as well. So that this EV charging load is actually bringing in the additional load during peak hours, critical hours, congestion in the distribution system, transformers, losses in the system, power quality issues. These chargers are again polyphonic converter interface systems, and they are non-linear load. They introduce harmonics into the system, which does have several potential impacts into the assets that are connected to the distribution system, reliability issues, and several other technical issues that the charging infrastructure can potentially and is actually in some of the countries introducing to the distribution system. And we foresee the similar issue in our Indian distribution system down the line if adequate countermeasures are not taken by the respective grid operators, particularly discoms here I would mention. Now, we did this impact analysis for one of the distribution systems, actual distribution system in Delhi. So these are some of the details of the distribution system. It had around 450, a little over than 450 households, and some of the commercial loads connected to it, 12 number of transformers, low voltage transformers, and then this distribution system, we looked at how this electric vehicle integration is potentially going to impact their distribution system in Delhi. So you can see here on the plot that I'm showing, if we go with the usual behavior of the EV users connecting their EVs for charging in the evening hours, the peak load is going to actually overshoot significantly because of the EV charging load, depending on what EV penetration level we are talking about. So it's going to certainly overload the assets of the distribution system. Transformers, you can see of the in the distribution system get overloaded for different penetration levels of the these EV integration. Voltage you can see is getting impacted in the distribution system. Feeders are getting overloaded because of this EV penetration level, which we tried of different levels, penetration levels, 20% to 100%. So 100% we consider that every household is having one electric vehicle that needs charging from the distribution system. And of course, we know that in some cases down the line, it is also possible that more than one electric vehicle is going to be there per household, particularly in the metro cities that we are familiar with that. Even with the conventional vehicles, there are more than one vehicle per household. So these, again, different penetration levels shows the impacts of this distribution system. That was in general the impact. Then we looked at impact of home charging. So if we broadly divide in terms of the place of the charging, so we can divide it in home charging and public charging. Now, public charging can be in public charging station, open for everyone, or office charging as well, which may be semi-public or public charging stations. So while we here in case of home charging, we try to have two case studies. One is that we deliberately had an uneven share of these single phase chargers across three phases of the distribution system. And in another case, that is case study 2, we try to have an ideal balance of these allocation of the chargers between these three different phases, which is practically almost impossible, but it can be attempted by the distribution system operator to some extent. So you can see here in both the cases, of course, in the first case where we have uneven distribution of the chargers across the phases, there is unbalance and overloading in the system. But even in the case study 2, where we kind of ideally distributed these chargers across three phases equally, still we have the unbalance in the system because the EV user behavior is not going to be same across all the EV users across the three phases that they are connected, their houses are connected to. Some EV users may charge at different point in time. Some EV users may charge at other point in time, depending on their need and depending on their SOC level of the battery. So even if the distribution system operator would or DISCOM would actually have ideal distribution of chargers across three phases, still they are going to actually experience unbalance in the distribution system, which is going to have other side impacts, including the losses, voltage issues, and power quality issues. Now, the question is that distribution system DISCOMs have to actually accommodate. There is no other option except accommodating these EV chargers into their system to help in adoption of the electric vehicles in the country. So what are the options to accommodate then these charging load without impacting the grid? So the first option is obviously the grid needs to be upgraded, distribution network needs to be upgraded. But then this is one of the most cost-intensive solution, and we know this the financial situation of most of the state-owned electricity distribution system utilities. So therefore, it's not a practically feasible solution. So the another solution, alternative solution, is actually adoption of smart charging, which has a lot of potential. Now, smart charging can be divided broadly into soft smart charging. That is where you do not need communication, advanced communication infrastructure. You simply have time of use, time of day tariff, means different prices of the charging load, electricity at different points in time. And then advanced smart charging is where you have communication infrastructure and you have the control over this charging infrastructure load. So this smart charging not only addresses the impacts that I spoke earlier about, but it also actually helps in benefiting these different stakeholders, which includes distribution system operator, EV user in terms of the cost saving of the charging, aggregator in terms of profit maximization and other benefits. So this is one of the studies that has been done in Hamburg, state Germany. Just for 9% increase in EV share, which accounted for 60,000 electric vehicles. If they would go for grid upgradation, the total cost of this implementation was 20 million euros. But if smart charging solution would be adopted for that, the cost of the implementation of this accommodation of these 9% increase in EVs comes down significantly to 1/10 of what it would be otherwise required for the grid upgradation. So similarly, this is another implementation done in California, PG&E distribution system operator. We have they are addressing this duck curve issue. I'm assuming that most of us are familiar with the duck curve issue in the grid. So they are trying to shape their design the prices of their charging electric vehicle charging based on the solar PV generation to address this duck curve issue. So it is not only addressing the impacts of the grid, but also actually helping in better integration of the renewables. This is time of use tariff, time of day tariff. We special electric vehicle tariff across different states in India. We have disparity in different states in terms of this. Chandigarh is currently this is not the updated one. Chandigarh is having the lowest tariff for electric vehicles, followed by Goa and then different states. So Goa used to be the first one, but in the recent update of this electric vehicle charging tariff, it is now after changing. This is another case study we did for the Indian distribution system again, where we tried to show how electric vehicle charging infrastructure can actually, help in leveling in addressing this peak load issue with home charging, and then we took the public charging as well and looked at how there can be a saving. You can see depending on the utilization factor how there can be saving in terms of the charging this the bills that would be otherwise required for charging electric vehicles. Not only the charging of that, we could actually exploit or take the advantage of this charging infrastructure for additional benefits where we do not need to exchange the actual power, but reactive power which would be there can be actually provided by the charging infrastructure itself. Not EV is not required to be connected to it. So this shows that on the left side, the Delhi distribution system that we had taken as a case study, and these different feeders, low voltage issues. On the right side, we are using the charging infrastructure to support and address the same issue. Basically, we are addressing the problem by better utilization of the source of the problem, that is charging infrastructure. This is one of the case studies for food industry, where we actually looked at how charging station in their premises can actually help in saving them money in terms of bills, in terms of this reactive power bills that they would otherwise need, or the infrastructure they would need. So this is another project that is going in the UK, which is looking at how this smart charging can actually help in adoption of educated adoption of the electric vehicles. And this is going beyond basic smart charging features, which is looking at the vehicle to grid support. This is one of the demonstrations that was done in Denmark somewhere in 2006, where electric vehicles actually participated in the electricity market. You can see on the left bottom side this plot, which shows that during the higher frequency, the batteries are actually charging more, their batteries taking more power, and during the lower frequency in the grid, by participating in the electricity market, they are injecting power back to the grid. And these are the commercial analysis, techno-economic analysis on the right side in terms of the savings and projected revenues that they could have based on those analysis. So looking at the smart charging requirements in India, the advantage we have, as I mentioned earlier, we are at the early stage of adoption of electric vehicles. We have an opportunity to actually better integrate these electric vehicles from the beginning itself, if we take care of these technical requirements, regulatory requirements, and stakeholder roles for adoption of smart charging in Indian electrical grid. Some of the analysis that we did for different policies across different states in India, to what extent there is at least a mention of smart charging related aspects, is this actually slide is capturing that in short. And of course, the reports that I will mention at a later stage, those who are interested to get into details of these analysis are welcome to visit those reports. So we came up with the range of recommendations for smart charging developments in Indian distribution systems across the states, where we looked at introduction of these time-based tariffs, development and implementation of this RE-based EV charging, e-roaming, and other related aspects. So these are some of the reports that I was mentioning that we have published from these studies that were done under NDCI project. This report was recently released. And these are all, I think most of them, I think almost all of them are.
Jackie, sir, actually, if you can wind up in another 5 minutes, because Dr. Rajesh and another speaker, they have to leave at 4:30. So
I'm concluding in 1 minute maybe. So these all reports are, I think, available on this library as well, that the earlier speaker was actually mentioning about. So to conclude this presentation, as I mentioned, though we are at the early stage of this EV adoption, there are a lot of opportunities that we have we could actually better integrate, learn from the experiences of the different countries that have already gone through these different phases of integration of electric vehicles. We could actually leapfrog from there and actually take the advantage of the experiences that these different countries have had over the years of integrating these electric vehicles, which looks and the different actually activities, different gap analysis that we have identified and different recommendations for adoption of adoption of seamless charging infrastructure in India, including smart charging of electric vehicles. So I will stop here in the interest of time. Thank you so much for being patient and listening to this presentation. In case there is any question query, I'll be happy to take them. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Dr. Zakir sir, for this very informative presentation and telling us about the impact of EV on the various sectors, and not only the impact, but also the solutions like smart charging, and telling us the case studies of both Indian and international through this presentation. So thank you very much for this presentation. Now we will move to our next talk, which is the panel discussion. And panel discussion is on unlocking the potential of knowledge management in conducting sustainable transportation research. And for this, we have Dr. Dipankar Saria, sir. He is Senior Fellow and Senior Director, TERI. So I request Dr. Dipankar, sir, to please moderate this session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. So thank you, Rita. We'll have this discussion on unlocking the potential of knowledge management in conducting sustainable transportation research. So we have today amongst us our lead speaker, Dr. Rajesh Gupta. He's a Director of Skill Development, Labor and Employment of Niti Aayog. We have other panelists, Dr. Advani, the Principal Scientist of Central Road Research Institute, Mrs. Sahana she's the Energy Advisor of NDC TIAGIZ India, and Sharif from TERI. So as we are all aware how critical the transportation sector is for achieving sustainable development goals. And I think the transportation sector accounts for nearly quarter of the greenhouse gas emission. Now we have different cutting edge technologies, research happening, and they offer tremendous potential for developing low carbon transportation solutions. And as we have seen in the recent past, that the world of sustainable mobility research is buzzing with groundbreaking solutions. Every day new things are coming up, from quite electric vehicles powered with solid state batteries to sleek vehicles and EVs are coming up, and lots of policy initiative and lots of changes has happened. There is a big boom in the EV market in India. The hydrogen fuel cells are coming in as a powerful alternative. Lots of micro mobility options are also coming on. But the most important part is from our this particular discussion, or overall also, that how research alone is not it is not enough. The gap between this different things that are coming up and execution of this remains a hurdle. How things can really be executed, and how we are finally achieve our goals of having low carbon vehicles, or finally have less carbon
I think sir has some connection problems, so please wait for a minute. Yes, it's fine. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Sir, you are muted.
Am I audible? No?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Did you hear what I had spoken earlier? Nothing
No,
came out.
nothing, sir. At that time, you are on mute, sir. Now it's okay.
Sir, you were talking about the solution. Sir, you were talking about the solution.
Yeah, did you hear about that? I spoke about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was speaking about, how the transportation sector is very critical for achieving our sustainable development goals. And nearly quarter of the greenhouse, gas emission is from this sector. And we have new technologies and research happening, and new technologies coming up. And we have tremendous potential for, developing low carbon solutions. And as the world, the sustainability mobility research is, there are groundbreaking solutions happening, and we have new vehicles, new EVs, and new sustainable way of transportation coming up everywhere in all sectors, from shipping to air to road and everywhere. But the point is that we really have to bridge this gap between the new things that are coming up, new research that are happening, and real world execution of this should be happening, and that is one of the critical hurdles. So this is where our the knowledge management and dissemination comes into play, and we need strategies that bridge this communication divide, reaching policymakers, practitioners, the public, and also we come up with policies, and also help the government to really frame policies that are in the near future would really help in achieving our NDCs. So with this, I request Dr. Advani to please speak on this topic. Then we will I will put questions for you.
Dipankar sir, actually, Dr. Rajesh Gupta is the lead speaker, and I think he has to leave early also. So
Has he joined back? He was not there.
Professor Dipankar, I'm very much here.
Okay,
Very good
okay.
afternoon.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry because
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So may I request Dr. Gupta to
Yeah,
please,
because,
thank you.
Yeah. So, very good afternoon to all the esteemed research enthusiasts, faculty members, GIZ team, and other esteemed members. I hope my voice is clear. Though you might be hearing some noise in the background, there's another online meeting going on. I can't completely, mute it, but I hope it's not disturbing. The voice is okay. Can I proceed?
Yeah.
Okay, so fine. So, I mean, it's a very interesting session personally, also for me. Terry with GIZ has developed this DLGM. It's a kind of repository which everybody in the spectrum of sustainable mobility can find use of. This particular discussion on putting, unlocking the knowledge potential through research uh, is has so much, in between the lines that you can talk about it, think about it all through the day, but I am a little pressed for time, so I'll just speak a few points which come to my mind at this moment. One is that uh, research on sustainable mobility as such is, it cannot wait. It is not astrophysics, it's not biotechnology, or maybe if biotechnology is not a good analogy, it is not particle physics, etc., which or which we can continue to do research and wait for the results for say another decade or so, because the world is moving so fast. If we miss out the race, probably we are never in. So in this context, there's an urgency, there's an element of urgency in this. There has to be, quantity wise, quality wise, uh, at least 10x more research and dissemination at the same time in sustainable mobility. Unlike other sciences, it cannot wait. Second is that it is not a very uh, you know uh, a very solitary kind of domain where you can just keep on doing certain batteries. The electronics has to follow. Even in technology, there has to be so many things which have to uh, be pulled up together. Apart from technology, the two other pillars remain the economics, because that is how you uh, create a long-term horizon where we want to go. Other than that is the finance, because ultimately knowledge is like a paint. Unless you apply it, it is of very limited use. So application of knowledge requires money. Money has to flow from somewhere. I do feel that there is a shortage of innovation in financial instruments for sustainable mobility as of now. So that is one area where immense potential for research is there. At the same time, it is not so. The three pillars: the economics, finance, and the technology of it. And also, we should understand that not every research has to be at this moment a ground up, the kind of terminology these EV walas use these days. It can be knockdown versions also. We can have, we know that so much has already been written and published. Probably there's a point in uh, renowned faculties like those from Terry taking up certain sessions like this on what those research is conveying. What is it that India can take out of it? Because I mean, many a times immense research value has already been created. Now we can harness that value for our purpose. We can, you know, uh, why it is little different in India, because the transportation segment is different in India. It is not very organized, it is very fragmented. You have so many small players. Also, there is so much of livelihood attached to it. You cannot, create a solution which threatens the livelihood. It has to be taking care of the existing jobs, as well as it has to generate new jobs. So it is a wonderful amalgamation of labor issues and technology and aspirations of new India, which wants to have more and more models of all segments of EVs. Not only EVs, the other, the hydrogen and other solutions also. So it is uh, it is always propitious for an emerging economy, especially India, where the solutions are there in minds and in research journals. They have to be, supporting the industry. Many a times we keep, looking for industry to come to academia and then fund the research. Maybe I mean, we can look at just the other way around. The industry propose in academia also can approach industry proactively that we can help you. I mean, this much in say scaling up the charging infrastructure. We can provide you these kind of artificial intelligence solutions or financial solutions, which I believe industry is in a position now, because it's a very different industry. You see, most of the players in this ecosystem today of EVs, especially the part which we deal with here, it is majorly driven by these new entrepreneurs, those who are not deploying their existing business money into the new ventures, but those who are seeking out new funds with new technology. Many of them have had no prior experience of working in the automobile sector, which is amazing, because automobile is has always been considered as a very niche kind of an area which is say reserved for certain big brands, etc. And the way these new comers are creating a market for themselves is amazing. So I believe there's a lot of appetite for research in industry. Only thing that this industry at the moment is not that well, I must say, not that well settled with their, in terms of their bottom lines, that they can approach uh, uh, the research institutions and, ask them for certain research or fund them. Probably the hand holding is required, and the first hand to come forward for that hand holding has to be from academia. I uh, I wish all the best for this particular webinar, and I hope many more such webinars will keep coming. It's always a pleasure to listen to these kind of conversations, because most of the times, listening to the world of practice, you start developing that craving for the academic research, and these kind of events are where you can satiate that desire. So thank you, Professor Dipankar. Thank you, GIZ, other organizations. I wish you all the best for taking this event further. I hope some takeaways or the recordings, etc., will be shared later on, so that and people like me can benefit from that. Thank you so much. I feel deeply obliged that I could, be a part of this August gathering today. Hope to learn more in such events. Thank you so much, and please allow me, because I have to rush to Pusa for a kind of preparation event that's going on. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for your,
I just one correction. I'm yet to be a doctor. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Gupta, for your, views on this. And now may I request Dr. Advani to please speak on the topic.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pankaj. Just a minute. Would it be helpful if one of you can confirm the
Yeah, we can see
slides?
slides,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, thank you. I think I am invited to this event earlier also, because one, I am working on urban mobility part, and second, I used to manage the KRC. So maybe that's why being invited. So what we, as a planner, what we see, or in general, being an Indian, we feel proud about is our road network. We consider we are happy that we have, we are the largest road network in the world. When we say largest, it indicates two things. One thing is a connectivity. Another thing is, how much space have we provided for this, connectivity. We are happy that our road infrastructure is very good, but at the same time, what we see is this, and every speaker has mentioned, this is primarily, or large portion of this is primarily due to the vehicles we have. So, and what does this indicate is basically we are, have kept increasing our CO2 emission primarily due to vehicles. However, if we look at this information, basically it indicates that how much CO2 is being emitted per person in various countries. And if you look at it, actually we are quite good. That means as an individually, our lifestyles are quite good or much better than anyone being in US, Canada, or China. That means at an individual level, I am performing good in terms of emission generated, but because of the population, we are having the highest emission. I will be a bit quick because I know there are more speakers to speak. So what we are looking, or what we are trying to achieve, is the sustainable transport. In considering all goals, when I say sustainable transport, I mean the reduced congestion, reduced vehicular pollution, and even reduce the accidents. However, if we check out our budget in any city, how much budget do we have with respect to road infrastructure and or the movement itself, and how much are we spending just to keep adding space? So in terms of budget, when we say budget, most of that budget goes to building the flyovers, footover bridges, and widening of roads, and less for the pedestrian facility. When I say pedestrian, it's a footpath and cycling, etc. In terms of space, again, the majority of our space in existing scenario, it is basically belonging to all vehicles, privatized vehicle, that is car and two-wheeler, and less for the so-called sustainable modes, that is walking, cycling, and public transportation. And when we see pollution, obviously we are, in the increasing trend. Now, if we are not spending enough budget for sustainable transport, not spending the space for the sustainable transport, how come we can say that we are moving in the right direction? Maybe we have to rethink. I think Dr. Sharif is also there. I mean, he knows already. This is the study we did jointly, and what we tried to do is how much CO2 is emitted throughout the lifespan of roads. It is based on 18 corridors, and this was there published earlier. One is by increasing road network, not only we are increasing the pollution most of the time, and apart from that, what we realize is if we convert these short trips made by car and two-wheeler, we can reduce CO2 emission. So this is some information based on a CRR study, but there could be many other study with the range of 20 to 40% change in the possible change if we improve our infrastructure. Now, talking more about what this platform is providing through TERI and GIZ. Basically, all data, whoever has generated or whoever has studied, and if we keep it everything on the single platform, definitely it is going to help each and every researcher. So few suggestions or few points I have listed are, CPCB already has emission data on their platform. Can it be, correlated or interlinked to your database? One. Second thing, how the road infrastructure is progressing. Can we have that information on the same platform? Because as of now, everything is available and everything is in a different platform. Since you have created an excellent platform, maybe bringing everything together will be, extremely helpful to every researcher. Another thing, I'm not saying that we need to collect new data. I'm just saying that whatever secondary data available at various platforms, we can just bring it to the same. Maybe some GIS related, GIS converting data onto GIS platforms, some effort might be required in addition to what they have on their website. Similarly, traffic police produces the wonderful report on road accidents related information that can be converted into this platform through GIS, and it will be very helpful. Now, every city has some model split. What kind of vehicles are moving in various size of city, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities, and someone will be working on all these correlation. We also do, and many researchers do. So if we have everything on this same platform, it will be helpful. Another important information exists is the black spot locations. Black spot is basically road safety aspect, wherever the maximum accidents are happening in any particular city or road network. Those are called basically black spot. And this information is available at a state level. Sometimes some compilation has been done by traffic police also, I mean at the ministry level also. So that information is there. If we can bring either in form of a list or better ways to have in a shape file or something, it would be helpful. As someone mentioned, a lot of now new technology is taking up, including AI, ML, and deep learning. And the key element for all these is the data collection through ADAS system, the advanced driving assistance system. Many advanced vehicle technology are including ADAS data, but we are not using it. When I say we are not using it, must be helping to the driver. But at the same time, if we have all these data on some platform, it is again going to be very useful for our research purpose. And apart from a lot of existing reports, which I think already are there, but if you can, ultimately a practitioner is bound to use the IRC standards and guideline, and IRC has its own way of, publishing. It's basically, I will say hard copy, but if you can, I mean, unofficially the soft copies are being, circulated everywhere. But if you can make some connection, official connection with IRC or maybe VIS also, I have not mentioned here, but yes, VIS also, then you can provide these soft copy of all these standards on your platform. I think it would be awesome if you can have it. And as Road Safety Week is approaching in January, and this year's theme is school safety. If possible, NCRT has its own database for where these schools are and what kind of facilities in terms of road accident related, they do have it. So if possible, those kind of information can be collected through secondary data through NCRT with the help of NCRT and can be, kept it here. This is all I think I could suggest, because I'm not just trying to convey that new database to be created, but some, official, some MOU, something to be done so that every information is available on your platform, which will be awesomely helpful. I think apart from that, yes, if you can provide some information with respect to latest, upcoming conferences, like I'm attached with the conference of Transportation Research Group of India activity, but it's just one, but you can have, better list. So whatever is, latest research happening, and if they can use your data, how to be acknowledge each other, that can be, explored further. This is just few key ideas. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Advani, for your insight, especially, how data can be put in one platform and how that can be shared, for further,
Yeah.
helping us for research. Now, may I request Mrs. Sahana to kindly speak. You have 5 minutes. We have short of time, so request you to kindly.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you for your introduction, and also the preceding speakers have been really insightful with their thoughts. Speaking on sustainable knowledge management, I think more as a person who is into research, I'll have to put on the hat of being a student before this. And when, we start looking up for information on the knowledge domain in terms of any new topic, we have always come up with this, the moment you put it on Google search, you have several articles or reports coming up, but we really don't know how many of them are of, very good content. So the question here is, how do you find them? How do you do the right knowledge management for sustainable mobility? Now, when DLGM was conceptualized from GIZ, we really did not expect that it would grow into so many reports coming onto the platform. And, we have received a lot of feedback from students, researchers, not just from India, but also from our partner countries, how they find it useful. Now, how do we take this forward, or how do we see that this happens? As far as India is concerned, we are growing by leaps and bounds in terms of sustainable mobility and low carbon transport. But the issue is that we are really not documenting our experiences in the right way. If you see, there is a lot of pilots that the small industries undertake, and Mr. Rajesh Gupta very rightly said that there are a lot of startups that are actually booming in the EV industry, electric mobility industry now. When we try to conduct studies or organize studies from GIZ also, the place where we have an issue is with data management. We barely get data either. If I'm speaking in terms of charging infrastructure, we have challenges in getting data from the distribution companies. We have challenges in getting data from the charge point operators. Now, if you look at China, and Ms. Rita also presented in one of her slides that China is leading in terms of also, the publications and reports on sustainable mobility. And China is also leading in terms of sales of electric vehicles or manufacturing of electric vehicles. Now, this is not a coincidence that we should be missing out. Because if India is also growing by leaps and bounds in low carbon transport, we need to document our experiences in the right way. We need to disseminate the learnings of our experiences to our own people. Because I started out as an electric mobility professional in the year 2018 when, the first EV policy had just come out from Karnataka and many other states. But when you even speak to the government authorities in that state at that point of time, nobody really was confident about electric mobility picking up in India. But when you look at the scenario now, it is completely changed. And even the reports that we published, say in 2019, are not really relevant in 2023 because there are a lot of data and numbers that are getting updated each day. And especially in the electric mobility sector, it is not easy to keep track of the change. Even 2, 3 months later, if you try to publish a report, that the data gets outdated. So the question here is, how do you accumulate the data in the right manner and try to give it to the researchers or give them access? There is also a deep concern among the consumers about also among the companies that are working in this industry on sharing data, because one thing is, for companies, it's all about saving their USP, their unique selling point, and for consumers, it is about data privacy. So they are not really comfortable with sharing the data with even the charge point operators about what is their daily time of charging, how many times in a week do they charge, or how many kilometers do they travel. But if you look up such reports in foreign Western countries, there is always a pilot or there is always a demonstration which is very neatly documented with the consent from the people there about the data sharing policy as well. So I would rather say there is a structured approach towards research in advanced countries, which we are really lacking in this sector presently. Randomly, there are a lot of organizations, think tanks, and many DFIs which are conducting a lot of simultaneous studies on more or less similar topics on low carbon transport, but you get to know when the reports are released. And I get information. Mukti Madam also spoke about the conferences that we need to have information on conferences. We get so many invitations to conferences round the year. I could easily count, at least 4 to 5 events, conferences happening on e-mobility in one or the other major city in India every month. But the problem is, are we discussing the matters of substance in these conferences? Most of the time, these conferences end up as being business meetups or for networking, and or some similar content is being regurgitated among the speakers. So rather, I would say academic institutions should partner with industry, should partner with think tanks, and there needs to be a structured approach as to how are you disseminating your studies or knowledge to the public. And we should not become too closed or too elitist a group where the actual work, the actual reports of substance are only shared among selected group of people or selected group of expert professionals. I would rather say we need to take it to the public. We need to take it to research institutions and organizations, to school, colleges at least, to students who are interested in this. And probably DLGM is one of the first steps for us towards bringing together all the content related to low carbon transport. So These are my thoughts on this topic, sir.
So thank you so much. Really agree to with that. We are not documenting much. The management, the data management is an issue, and we don't have structured research program. We don't know, we don't come to know actually what's happening. And conferences are definitely more of networking and a COP type thing that happens every year. So conferences are more of network rather than, or more of a business meet rather than actual content that is discussed. So thank you, Sahana. Now may I request my colleague Sharif to please speak on the topic, and then we'll have a Q&A session.
Thank you so much, sir, and also to GIZ India for having me on the discussion panel. Couple of points. I started, with 8 points in mind to speak, but being the last speaker, I kind of ended up with 2 because 6 of the key points that have been already covered, I won't cover it. So, and that will make sure that I'll be on time, sticking on time. So I had the privilege to be involved in the DLGM project and work that Dr. P.K. Bhattacharya and GIZ team kind of initiated. And going through the initial discussions and the technical difficulties and challenges that we had, I think we have come a long way and covered a long distance in capturing some of the important information that is available and managing the knowledge that are existing in the Indian context right now. And in terms of as part of the technical research team in transport in TERI, we are not only the contributor to DLGM, but we are also the user of DLGM. So we have been also benefited in certain ways by having this DLGM website as well. So I'll stick to some of the important points, and perhaps Sahana kind of referred to it. And as researchers, we often end up having a lot of information available, but the quality of information is something that we struggle with. And talking with our team members, it's always important to refer to the important and credible information that is there, and that's what the objective of DLGM has been ever since that the information that were provided are of standard and quality that is there uploaded on the website. We in research we also have the peer-reviewed journals that are coming up, but not many researchers have the access and the resources to have that access of these peer-reviewed journals. Sometimes it's paid, and most of the times the researchers are left with no other option but to go for other options of referring. So I think DLGM provides a beautiful space for and access to research work that researchers are looking at, and that's where perhaps one of the suggestions, and it could be taken as suggestion as well from our side, as to whether we should have a star rating mechanism for the knowledge management as well, especially in the green mobility sphere. I think a lot of thought process, and we have seen a lot of inputs also provided in the chat box by the audience and the listeners here on the discussion as well. But we'll be happy to take more, such suggestions as to how we can improve the reach and also the interface between researchers, and what kind of information are they looking at. Perhaps I heard Deepa ma'am talking about the survey done. Perhaps we should have another round of survey as to what has been the progress in the past 2 years since we did the last survey. I think that's important to take as. And other a bit of challenge is that while doing this work, we also have the incredible information through chat GPT and AI based systems that are being generated. I think that's important to consider, and streamline ourselves and use that information. I'm sure some thought process is going on right now in the KRC Knowledge Resource Center in TERI as to how ChatGPT, could help the reach and quality of information that we are trying to do in DLGM. I'll end with the last point, and we have been, talking about DLGM, and I really commend the terminology and the wording of DLGM. It talks about green mobility, and some of the questions that have been asked in the chat box also talks about non-EV related strategies to decarbonize or reduce emissions in the transport sector. I think a lot of information that is there right now is specific to EVs, but how do we then have more impactful research work on other aspects of green mobility, something that we can look at. I'll stop here, but I'm thankful to the organizers to have me here on the discussion panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharif. I think you touch upon very important points, the standard and quality of information and access to peer reviewed research papers and journals by the researchers. And definitely ChatGPT would definitely be something very useful in the near future, and how really you can use this tool to provide us the correct information or the right information that is required, and definitely more impactful research work that we need to further do. And with this, we will take the questions now. I have one another meeting at 4:30 are starting, so I may leave, but I would request the panel to please continue. I request Rita to please put up the questions that has been put up by our participants. But two questions that I will just put forward before I leave, and how sustainable mobility can be implemented beyond metro cities in India. That is for everybody, whoever takes this question. Beyond, it is more happening in the metros. So how we can take it beyond? Because we have the issues of charging and all this, if we have to take it far in the interior places. That is one. And second is, where do you find EV related market linked data for India? So as of now, where do you find this data? So these are the two questions from my side to our panelists. So thank you so much. It has been very useful, very useful, tips that we got. And I think definitely, KRC and GIZ would prepare a very good, outcome of this, our webinar today. So thank you so much. I'll leave now. May I hand over to Rita? Thank you. Thank you, KRC.
Thank you, Dr. Dipankar Sahaya, sir, for moderating this wonderful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, as sir has already thrown two questions, so I would like to request if someone of you from the speakers can answer these questions.
Like regarding sir's question, like how do we take up, beyond metro cities? I always say that at least in India, smaller cities are already more sustainable than the metro cities because they have to travel shorter trip and they are producing less of, they are not that dependent, car dependent, the way we are in the metro cities. So instead of, in fact, converting them into any other mode, we should facilitate them that whatever they are doing, walking, cycling, the amount of walking, cycling they are doing is already there, but without any infrastructural support. So we should, target to provide more infrastructural support to them so that they can continue. And instead of, following the metro cities, having more flyovers and other infrastructure. I think that's the response I could share. Thanks.
Thank you, Muktiji. Yes, Mr. Sharif, you would like to say.
I think it's an important question as majority of the population resides in the non-urban areas, I would say, and not rural. Now, if you look at the transport sector and so the total number of registered vehicles within that, the majority share is two-wheelers. And the non-urban sector, our population largely depends on two-wheelers for their day-to-day mobility option. And compared to the size of two-wheeler market, you have about 50% share of two-wheelers that are sold in the country goes to the non-urban segment, right? So, and if you then link it with electric vehicle, there's a huge opportunity and progress and growth that we are seeing in the rural market as well. Connecting this again, the point of charging, which was brought in the presentation earlier from IIT Bombay, talking about the public charging infrastructure. And in India, perhaps you would not require that much of public charging infrastructure as you require in the developed countries. We are very cost sensitive, market as Indians. We always see economics while making our decisions, and the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler and perhaps the four-wheeler segment as well. The charging that is done from the household connections because of the cost implications. And therefore, if you combine and bring together all these points that I've said, one, of course, as Mukti Madam mentioned about the entire size of rural or non-urban segment, lower emissions from transport. And then if you look from the two-wheeler segment, huge opportunities there for the two-wheelers to capture that market in the non-urban segment as well. And you have very good models and apple-to-apple kind of models that are available, which will cater to the demand of non-urban segment. I'll stop here, but happy to take more questions as well.
Mr. Sharif, so Sahana, would you like to put your thoughts on this? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Rita. So basically what I wanted to say is that when Mukti Madam mentioned that, yes, certainly the sustainable lifestyle in urban areas is quite appreciated, but they do have their issues in terms of having connectivity with the heartland or getting connectivity with the towns for their basic daily needs. And from what we are seeing is that, and Mr. Sharif also mentioned a very good point that, there is a lot of demand for non-fossil fueled vehicles in the rural sector as well. And certainly, if you see that they do not have petrol bunks or petrol stations as many as what we have in the cities. So they have to travel quite some distance if they have to get their IC engine vehicles fueled. But that won't be the case if they are using electric two-wheelers or three-wheelers. And I was quite surprised because when we visited in 2021 Darjeeling through Bagdogra Airport, so we in the small town of Bagdogra, there were a lot of electric three-wheelers plying. We could barely see any IC engine three-wheeler there. So they do not have an issue in terms of charging, but certainly the cost of the battery when it reaches its end of life is still a concern there. And I would like to differ a little bit from what Mr. Sharif told that, in India, mostly charging from home is quite accessible. That is unless and until we are privileged enough to have a parking space for our vehicles in our residences. At least in the cities, what we are seeing is that most of the multi-unit dwellings or many places, people do not have proper parking places and they park their vehicles on the streets, or they're unable to bring a plug point to their parking point to get their vehicles charged. So this is another bigger debate that we have to move into. Certainly, it is quite cost effective to have home charging, but the issue in India is that we are lacking place and we are lacking the rules, regulations, or even the connectivity, power connectivity issues in terms of charging our vehicles at home. So these were my points on this.
Yeah, thank you, Sahana. And regarding second question, where do you find market-related EV data? So any one of you would like to answer?
I would like to say the market information, if you are looking at a number of electric vehicles that are getting registered, I think this is still accessible from the Vahan dashboard, although, the talk is that it's not updated so quite often as it should be, but at least this is the most accessible data as of now from where you can get information on how many electric vehicles are getting registered and reach RTO. And this database, I think, is linked to the eAmrit portal as well. And from there also you can get, also from SMEV portal, they do put up the numbers on the number of electric two-wheelers, three-wheelers and four-wheelers in a year, how many have been registered in the country. But I think Mr. Sharif will be the better person to answer because he uses a lot of this data.
So there are multiple sources, but EV Vahan database is something that is something that we quite often refer to. That's quite updated, and not only about EVs, but all other technology as well, including LNG, LPG, every technology that is available for automotive sector. Vahan database is the source to go to. Just a clarification, and we can have a offline discussion as well in terms of the charging. So right now, India has about 300 odd, one charger for 300 odd vehicles in India. Whereas in foreign benchmark, if you look at, it's about 6 to 20 vehicle, being catered to by one public charging station. So there is a huge gap that is there, and with the current scenario of EV penetration, we do see the charger numbers going up. But whether it will be that dense or frequent is something that we'll have to look at with the current utilization of the charging infrastructure in mind here.
Thank you, Sharif. So I think it's 4:30 now. So let's conclude this with the vote of thanks. So I will take this privilege to give the vote of thanks of this webinar. And as we conclude this inspiring conversation on sustainable mobility research, knowledge management, and dissemination, so I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this impactful webinar possible. Firstly, a big thank you to all our esteemed panel of speakers. Your expertise, insights, and passion for a greener future have sparked critical discussion and provided invaluable knowledge to everyone here. Your willingness to share your perspectives and engage in dialogue is truly appreciated. So thank you all the esteemed speakers for joining this webinar. And our sincere thanks also extended to our partner GIZ and Niti Aayog for supporting this webinar and anti-CTIE initiative. Behind every seamless webinar experience lies a dedicated team working tirelessly to ensure everything runs smoothly. So thank you, Terry and GIZ team for making this event successful. To all our participants, thank you for joining us today. Your active participation, insightful questions, and unwavering interest in shaping a sustainable future are what keeps this conversation moving forward. So we are grateful for your commitment to learning, sharing, and collaborating towards a common goal. As we walk away from this session, so let's carry the knowledge, inspiration, and sense of shared purpose with us. Let's us be the catalyst for change, the advocates for sustainable mobility, and the active participants in building greener futures for generations to come. So thank you once again to everyone who contributed to this incredible event. So together we can make a difference. So please join me in giving yourselves and each other a round of applause for your commitment to a sustainable future. So a big applause to everyone for making this webinar successful. Thank you.